How's it going, man?
Cool. Good, man. Good. Dan, everything. Yeah, dude, I just want to take a sec real quick to introduce you for anybody out there that could be watching before we dive straight into it. Um, Guys, this is Dan Kitajima. Dan Kitajima, top 1% farmers agent. He's also got over 10 years experience, Toppers Club Awards, 2019 Personal Lines Agents of the Year, and the list keeps going on. Dan, I know there's some probably even the more recent years. And I don't know all of them, so I'm sure there's probably more. If you want to take a second and just dive into a little bit about some of, you know, the stuff you've done. And I know you're a humble guy, so I don't know, you don't want to go into it so much, but yeah, some of the cool awards you've gotten recently.
Oh yeah, well, thank you, Chris, for having me on. First of all, I see you're doing great things on YouTube and social media, so I know a lot of stuff that I want to learn from you too. But yeah, I'm really lucky to be in this business. I'm really fortunate. The business has been great to me and my family and my staff and my staff's family. So some of the things I'm kind of proud about is like, what type of difference this business has made for my staff's lives and their families' lives. So some of the fulfillment I get is not really from like the awards, but more from like making a difference in like the people I work with life. So yeah, it's been a great business, and I'm really excited not only of what we've accomplished, but what's next for us.
Cool, man. Yeah, yeah. So, Dan, you're a little over 10 years, right? Or how long exactly? Is it 11 years now
Uh,
or
13 year, almost
oh,
14 years.
13?
hmm
Wow.
And
Wow.
I was an insurance agent right out of college, so 3 years working for insurance company, and then
Uh-huh.
but 13 years. So altogether 16 years, but 13 years as an agency owner.
Gotcha.
How
Yeah.
about you, Chris?
Yeah. No, for me, Dan, I was also similar. I was in college and I worked for Farmers Insurance.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you
I
knew
didn't know
that,
that.
but
Uh-uh.
I worked for Farmers throughout college. I was 18 years old. I reached out to one of my buddies. I said, "Hey, how do I, get a job?" Or he was looked like he was doing well, and he just basically reached out to me. He said, "Chris, like you speak Spanish, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I speak Spanish." He gave me his dad's number. He said, reach out to my dad. He has a farmer's agency. Remind him of our childhood because we were good childhood friends. And he was like, ask him if he'll give you a job. And luckily, the guy gave me a job. I don't know why he did. I was 18 years old. I think maybe because I was bilingual. And I started working at Farmers for about every summer throughout college. And then the whole time I was just like I realized I like the business. It's a
Mhm.
great business to be in, people business. And yeah, I just said, either I'm going to start my own farmers agency or I'm going to go independent. So I kind of saw like the farmer side of it, and it's a great company. And I just, the only thing I was like, I want a little more flexibility. That was my thing. I just kind of wanted, there was stuff that came across my desk and I was like, these are nice size policies and I just wish I could write them. And that's kind of why I decided to go more independent.
Mhm.
But overall, at the end of the day, Farmers is a extremely um, good company. So you're in the right spot, and it looks like it's done well for you. So yeah,
Yeah, same with you. You're in the right spot too. I mean, for sure.
yeah,
As young as you are, so yeah, we're both lucky to be in this business.
for sure, for sure. Yeah. So Dan, what got you first and foremost like into? I know you used to work at like a call center originally, and
hmm
that was it an insurance call center, or did you go in just like was it a call center for something else?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it was AAA. It was a call center in
oh,
Costa Mesa.
mhm.
So that's really where I got started. Right out of college, I knew I wanted a sales job, and I got hired, and then they got me licensed, and really learned how to sell insurance over the phone, all personalized there. So a lot of my background and training is phone skills. I give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, dude, wow. Yeah, no, AAA is also a solid company. They're pretty competitive. So I'm sure you got a good taste of winning some good accounts because a lot of people go with AAA. Like we can't write AAA. AAA is
Mhm.
like a similarly a captive company. But yeah, that's great. So did they have good training for you and stuff, or did you just kind of learn on your own, or how did you do it?
Yeah, I would say they did. They got me licensed. Like I said, there was like a class. Some of those
Hmm.
people that I started with are still my friends,
Oh,
because
really?
yeah, it was like a whole, like, I would say, man, and I don't know what the program is now, but it was like a couple months of just training of, like, how to, role playing, and like, while you're getting licensed, a lot of the process before you got on the floor. So
Hmm.
I would say the training process was pretty thorough, and it prepared me to be on the phones once I got my license, and to start selling right away. And I think that was a good experience. And just like your experience, Chris, where you had a little bit of experience before starting your agency,
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I always look out for, is when agency owners become an insurance agency owner before having experience of, being a producer or selling insurance first. So I think both of us had great training, and I think that helps us get off, because being an agency owner, as you probably know, it's not easy. So at least knowing how to sell insurance before getting into it, I think helped probably both of us out.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I get, Dan, I don't know about you, but I'm sure people probably reach out to you from watching your stuff too. And I get people that ask me, and they ask, hey, like I do taxes, or I'm a financial advisor. Do you think I should start my agency? And a lot of times I'm like, you seem super sharp. You seem like, you could do super well, but I highly, highly recommend every single time. I'm like, go work for somebody for a year, 2 years, at least learn the ropes, the ins and outs of how the business operates, or just even like how to make a change or a payment. Like that stuff is,
Yeah.
if you can't do that day one, then you're going to have a really, really hard time teaching somebody else and growing a team and doing the right things that are necessary foundationally to start an agency. So yeah, I think you're right. I'm not surprised that you had that experience prior. And so Dan, what about like the first like couple years? Were you just doing all the sales, or did you hire aggressively early on, or
Yeah.
how did you kind of, what did those first couple of years look like? That's the most interesting to me.
hmm How many years have you been in right now?
Yeah, we're approaching our third year
Oh, okay,
in
awesome.
in
And
June.
and
So
how old
we're
are you
like,
right now, Chris?
I'm 24.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
my third
almost
year,
25.
third year in, I was like 30. So yeah, you're man, your future's bright for you, man. Already an agency owner at
Thank
that
you.
age, and an independent one too. So
Thank you.
really excited
Thank
to
you.
keep in touch with you, and see what you accomplish, because that's a great spot to be in. But yeah, the first 3 years I was so let me think here. So I think I was 27, right? So yeah, I was 27. Didn't have any kids. Luckily for me, I had some money saved in the bank, about 40 grand.
Okay.
And I was just like, okay, and I was used to the call center environment. So the phones was ringing for me, and we're picking up calls, and I was just used to the action. I did really well there too. Um, so yeah, I was used to having a higher income, and I kind of wanted to replace that as soon as possible.
Right.
Um, so I just bought leads right away. I was used to spending money. Well, I knew I had to spend money to win, because I was playing poker at that time too. 2007 was like a big poker boom, and I was
Yeah.
kind of used to losing money. So, but I did understand that, playing high stakes poker, I understood that, hey, I got to spend the money to make the money. So
Sure.
day two, I started buying leads, and I was working the leads, and I was really frugal with everything else. You know, I didn't have a girlfriend at that time, but I was like, hey, I can't spend that $50 dinner, because I need that $50 to buy leads. Like, almost everything I had, I was really I sacrificed a lot of fun. I will say those
Yeah.
first couple years, because at that age, to be, you know, focused on that. And I still, had a little fun in here and there, but like no vacations, like didn't buy anything. Like I didn't want things, but I just didn't buy anything. I just really made a sacrifice to pay the price at that time. I feel like that helped me, and I feel like I still do that to a big extent still. But
Mhm.
early on, I had the intuition that, hey, I have to pay the price right now. S- and then I spent money on leads. I didn't really spend that much money on office space. The employee part came around 6 months later. I got really lucky in that situation, Chris, because at AAA, I had connections there, and another person that didn't work out there. It was a kind of a really bad time during that time. It was like a recession around
Oh, that's right.
2008.
2008.
So it was a difficult situation for a lot of people. So I was lucky enough to be able to hire somebody at that point, even though It's, as you may know, it's kind of hard to hire people in today's world, with the payroll expenses and how competitive the market is. At that time, I was kind of lucky looking back at it because I was able to hire somebody.
Hmm.
There weren't that many jobs out there, and she already had the experience because she was working at AAA. We knew each other from AAA, so it really lucked into having a great first employee.
Wow. Okay.
Um, and then went on to providing the leads for both of us. So both of us were selling insurance, selling leads, and it was a scratch agency, so we didn't have any much customer service. Uh, and internet leads also was kind of like considered like a fad at that time. Like people were saying like, don't do that. That's not going to work. Like people were like, you can't sustain that. That's going to go away. Like, it's not going to, it wasn't like a solution as it is these days to
Sure.
marketing. And I remember, Chris, there were some deals with internet leads. It was like $1 leads at hometown quotes. It's funny you talk about the first 3 years because as hard as it was, I kind of enjoy it because I don't do that
Oh,
much
hell
sales anymore. But
yeah.
I looking back, I was at my home on a Saturday and Sunday. I sold 20 policies, 10 each. I didn't like step out of the house. It was like I was in quarantine back then, even though it wasn't like that. But I was like
Dang.
28, 29 years old, just working out of my house on Saturdays and Sundays, and just didn't step out until I got hungry at dinner. And I remember just celebrating, getting in and out. It's just like really simple, but it was still fun to just
Yeah.
grind away and just um and get results. So that was the
Sure.
early years. It was just a lot of work, it's a lot of sacrifice. I think it's really important where agency owners to spend the money into what makes them money, and that's really when it comes to marketing and staffing, and not you really have to audit your personal expenses. And I still do that where I want to make sure I'm not overspending on other things, such as fun, because I think the less fun you have now, the more fun you have later. It's like a delayed gratification thing, and I
Sure.
don't know why I just kind of understood that at the early stages of building an agency.
Dude, yeah. No, it sounds similar to what's happening now for me. Do you feel, and this is kind of where um, I'm also very interested. I'm sure a lot of people want to know the same thing. Is do you know? Do you remember or feel? Did you feel like a moment where it all kind of started to shift, where you weren't so much having to do the Saturday. I mean, I know you still do. You're hustling all the time, man. But was there a moment where you started to feel like, okay, it's starting to work? Like the ball's really rolling, and like you're not so much having to sell as much, and you're kind of like allowing the team to kind of the business is running. It's kind of doing its thing. Was
hmm
there a moment like that, or is it still going on right now, or you know was there a time that kind of shifted for you, or
yeah, it's such a gradual change.
it's just gradual?
It
Yeah.
never felt like, oh, one day it just felt different because it just takes a long time to get there. And
Yeah.
I feel like that is something that I always strive for, is to have a business that's running without me being, I'm still very involved, but not the sales and customer service side of it.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I think I got an early taste of it when, just from my first employee when she was able to do customer service and sales.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it just doesn't happen overnight. Everything just
Yeah.
takes time in this business. And I feel like one of the things that this shift me was when I started realizing that I have time as a friend. I think
Right.
when I was younger, I was really ambitious because I was making that high income working at corporate sales job at AAA. And I feel like the earlier years, I was a little frustrated because I wasn't replacing that income right away. In fact, I was like making nothing. Even
Yeah.
though I had a lot of sales, but I was putting so much everything back into the business. Like I wasn't taking home anything. And at times, I think that would frustrate me, or I feel like, am I doing something wrong? Because you know I had high ambitions and it wasn't happening as fast as I wanted things to. And I feel like once I had a more of a patient view approach,
Yeah.
that's when things started getting better because I just started becoming a nicer person because I was just so frustrated at times, Chris. Like
Yeah.
it
I hear
was
you, man. I
it
know.
wasn't necessary because it's just a matter of time if you're doing the right habits. So once I understood that, like, hey, this is fine. Like, I'm doing the right things. It's gonna take some time. the employees are getting better. I'm getting better at marketing. Like everything's going well, and I started enjoying the journey. That's when I started becoming nicer to my employees, nicer to my clients, and just nicer to myself. And I feel like that is, if you want to talk about something that kind of changed, I think that is something that helped me a lot.
Dude, I resonate with that a lot because I know what it feels like. I'm almost, yeah, like I said, my third year, started completely from scratch. And dude, yeah, it feels like sometimes you look at, the business is growing, you're reinvesting every penny, and then you sometimes sit there and you're like, dude, am I ever gonna pay myself? Like, am I ever gonna get like my own check? But um, yeah, I think it's is it worth it, Dan? Like after 10 to 14, plus years, how like is it worth it? Like the first 3 years, 5 years of sacrifice of just pouring everything back in. Um, just like
Abs-
kind of your experience.
yeah, absolutely. Because when I look at 3 to 5 years in one's life, that's not really a big part of it. If we live to 100, so only like 5% of that small part of your life. It's hard
Yeah, that's
young
crazy.
when I have fun. It's such a small percentage of life, but that sets up the rest of like your next 20 years. you
Right.
know so if you had a regular job where you were making good money for 5 years, but didn't have the potential to grow, it totally for me made sense that, hey, I'm gonna sacrifice these next 5 years to set up my next 20,
Hmm.
which I felt it did. And once you start enjoying the journey, like, hey, this is the sacrifice, because I still feel like I still make sacrifices today.
Yeah,
uh, it starts becoming like, hey, I'm not gonna sacrifice for enjoyment later. I kind of already enjoy the sacrificing part. you know,
right, right.
so it's like, hey, this is it's just kind of starts becoming like, you don't even like, I don't even look forward to the payoff. I'm just like, this is fine, like, because at a certain point
That's
there
so
isn't that
important.
much like a financial need. Like, hey, my family's good. We live in Southern California. We're healthy. It's like, what do I need? Like, I don't have like that. And people will say like, "Oh, I have fancy stuff," but I don't feel like I need anything like that much more extravagant. Like, I'm pretty good. So why not? Instead of having money in your bank, just like put it back into the business, and it's just funner for me. It's just, I enjoy the process of growing something, and I will tell you, Chris, it's absolutely worth it. And if that's what you're saying, what you told me, I'm even more excited about your future because you're doing the right things of not paying yourself, putting it back into the business. And it's really hard to do that at a young age. So I'm really happy and proud to hear that you're doing that.
Thank you, man. Yeah, no, honestly, I can't afford not to at this point. If I
I get
really,
it.
with the ambition to go to, levels of your size, and there's no other route. Like if you're pulling out money and paying yourself and going blowing it on, trips to Vegas or stuff, like I don't know what you might be doing with it, but that's just there's no way to grow to the size, and that, um, unless you have like loans or something or investors, or but then at that point you're just giving away pieces of your hard work that you could just sacrifice for a couple years and do it yourself. But yeah, Dan, I wanted to ask you too, what kind of like got you motivated to go to that level? Because there's a lot of agents out there that are farmers agents, and they, even the agency I worked at, I think it was like three or four of us. It was never really that big.
Hmm.
And the volume and the size and the numbers you guys are doing. What kind of like was it? Just like you were going after just the size? Was it like a money thing that you wanted to hit, or like family, or like was it traveling, or like what was like your thing that got you going and motivated you to take it to the levels you've taken it?
Yeah. I think that has changed over the years. I think that's normal too. And I think it's also okay for everybody. That's like a personal question, like everybody to have different ambition
Right,
levels,
right.
because there's absolutely nothing wrong with like having a smaller agency, having great, time off, and enjoying life,
Sure.
so um for me personally, in the beginning, Chris, there's so many things that motivate me, but I love this topic because it changes. But in the beginning, things didn't work out at AAA. So in the beginning, when things didn't work out at the end, it was kind of like I had like a chip on my shoulder, like I'm gonna prove them that they made a wrong decision, you know of
Yeah.
so I kind of came from like a revenge type of motivation. Like I want to
Did,
like I have so much to prove. Like
did they like lay you off or what happened?
yeah, they did.
What? Oh wow,
Yeah,
shoot.
they yeah
They're probably
they fired me, and I
they're,
love that job, and I was making good money at a young age. So that was kind of like a setback that it was like kind of like difficult for me because I saw myself being there for a long time. So I was like kind of like taken off guard, and but that was a great learning experience, especially when it comes to humility.
dude, that's
Uh,
also probably the best thing that ever happened to you at
yeah,
that point.
that's
Jeez,
yeah. Looking back at
that's
it, it definitely was. Um,
that's crazy.
but so that's how it started, and then it started, changing where I was like, hey, I want to have a family. I
Mhm.
need to be able to support a family. Um, so it shifted there. I think also just pure numbers, that's part of the, we got to have targets of like, hey, I want to make, I think for some reason, having an agency with a revenue of doing seven figures was something I've always had. That was a goal I had. So that kind of like I had like a long term one too.
Mhm.
I have goals for like employee count, you know,
Yeah,
I want to have certain amount of employees. I also have goals of like I want to have certain employees making, six figures.
sure.
And just um man, I just every day it's almost different. What motivates you.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I think it's okay for me to say like, hey, I want to have the certain car. So
right.
whatever you kind of have to like search your, have internal conversation and search like your deep side of you and see like, hey, what gets me
Yeah,
going? And whatever it is, if you want to prove somebody wrong, if you want to get something, or if you want to take care of somebody, like just kind of go deeper so you always remind yourself, because what we do on a daily
mhm,
is maybe, it's insurance. Sometimes it's not that fun or it's not that I enjoy it, but it's like it could get dry sometimes. So to really be pushed through some of the difficult days, it is important to remind yourself of what motivates you. And
sure.
I think it's a good exercise to understand yourself to see what gets you going,
Yeah,
because it's almost like you have to find ways to push yourself,
yeah,
and have long-term ones, short-term ones. I think that is it's a good exercise to always do to find out what really motivates you.
yeah. I 100% agree. I think it's important, having first and foremost having a goal,
Right.
because if you don't have a goal, you don't really have direction of where you're gonna go. So whether those are huge, whether those are not so big, having the direction and then asking yourself like why is that my goal? And then you're right. There's nights, Stan, where I'm like, I'll sit in here not as late as you. You're probably a little later than I am, but sometimes I'll be here till like 8 p.m. Sometimes 9 too. And I'm like, dude, I'm tired. It's not always the most fun when you leave your office. I'm in a basement floor. We don't even have windows. We're in the process of going to a bigger office where there is windows, but
Oh, nice.
um, there's no windows. So I'll be in my office the whole day and I won't see the sun. Like I'll leave and I'll go outside and it's dark. And especially more recently, now that the times changed,
Right.
where the sun's out later. But I'll leave and it's like, dude, it's dark, and I'm like, dude, I didn't see the sun like at all since only when I got to the office this morning. And they're not necessarily fun. So you definitely, I 100% agree. You need something to like be, your North Star. Like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And like, this is why I'm here till 9 p.m. and like leaving, not feeling like miserable. Cause if you hate it, um, that's not cool. Cause yeah, there's a lot of people that reach out to me, Dan, and they ask me, they're like, hey, like, do you think I can get to that level within a couple years or 2 or 3 years? And I'm like, you can definitely do it. It's going to take a shit ton of work, and you're going to have to bust your ass the whole time and like do uncomfortable stuff that you may or may not be willing to do. And I get nervous telling them like you should do it, because I don't know if I think honestly, like just based on what you said, I think you're just a pure competitor. Like you want to just you're like the fact that numbers are like kind of just excite you. Um, like that's just my gut. I feel like you just want to like win and like with numbers and like you're just a competitor. And I feel like certain people have that and certain people maybe don't, and it's okay either way. But um, yeah, man, I respect it. I think I'm kind of like that too. Like I just want like that number. Just I'm just a goal oriented like number um, competitor, and it's just it's a great business to be in for it because the sky's, the limit. So yeah,
Yeah, no,
man.
I think that is true because growing up, I wanted to be a athlete, and
Yeah.
I couldn't. So, when it comes to athletes, we have stats,
What did you
and
play, Dan?
I play basketball, but I was
Oh,
also, into like baseball. So like, collecting baseball cards, looking at people's stats and stuff like that. And then seeing
yeah,
like, if people, they play better and they have better stats and they get higher income. So,
nice.
um, so I think am a competitor in a certain way, but I think also that helps too. But also combining it with something that is not just for yourself, I think is important too, because the
Yeah.
motivation of just doing it for yourself could take you to a pretty good level.
Mhm.
But now, if you think about, hey, I'm doing this for my family, and then now that I have, employees that are really, you know, taking care of their families with the income from the agency, now have like a sense of obligation, like, hey, I better like keep my game up high because people are kind of depending on me to figure out things for them to have the opportunity. So once you start putting more responsibilities on yourself with not just, your goals, but other people's goals, I think that motivation level goes up. So not doing it just for yourself, but doing it for others, I think that's another level of motivation
Yeah.
that I've discovered more recently as, my employees have been with me for so many more years. I feel
Yeah.
like, just obligation as an employer, they could choose who they could work for, and now that they're choosing me, I feel like, man, I better like, keep my game sharp and make sure the agency is going the right way because they put my trust in me and I have to deliver on, and they're working hard. So I think when you have a sense of obligation to work hard for other people, customers, employees, family, those are good source of motivation too.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. It almost feels like you're like, well, I mean, yeah, the way you operate and you're driving the ship. So if you do a good job, they do a good job, they make six figures. Their kids get to, benefit from the rewards that the agency is giving off too. So it's almost like you have like 100 kids, man. Like if every
Yeah,
so,
no, it does depend on, what type of opportunity is here. It depends on where they grow up, where to go to school. It's like a big thing to think
dude,
about.
that's
So
crazy.
that makes me feel like, man, I can't be, sacking off, or I can't be like, blowing money on my, selfish needs. I have to spend
Yeah.
money wisely and think about, their futures. So if you put it that way, Chris, I'm almost like a grandpa.
Oh my gosh, feel like a great grandpa, man.
Yeah, yeah, but it's a good way to look at things, I think. Yeah, for
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
it for others, not just for yourself.
I think it's a healthy pressure to have
Hmm.
because if your ambition is to do bigger and better things, then that accountability is good. Some people out there maybe don't want all that and they don't like that's not what they want. And having 10, you know, 10 plus employees is probably like the worst thing that they could ever do for themselves. So like going back to what I said, man, I think it takes a certain type of person um, that wants that and like seeks that. Um, but yeah, Dan, what would you say? And yeah, this was also something I really was interested in. What would you say is like one of the things that um, kind of helped you? Was it the leads that buying leads? Is that really kind of what got you guys to scale to the size that you guys got to? Or was it, the marketing? I know you do a fantastic job on social media too. Um, how much of that was part of the play, or like, was it the leads, or was it cold calling, or training, or what did you think that like really got? It was a combination of all of them, or
Yeah, great question, Chris. And that also evolved too. So in the beginning was
yeah,
leads, but I think in general, my willingness to spend the money on marketing, I think
mhm,
definitely helped. Um, when it comes to marketing, I think a lot of agency owners, they look at the ROI of the short term too much, but we're in the residual game, so
right,
thinking of things long term. And when I spend that money to buy the leads and then pay the commissions out, sometimes it doesn't look like, hey, it doesn't look like a good deal. So in the beginning, I was doing internet leads probably for the first, like, 7 to 10 years.
hmm,
And that has shifted more towards social media now. Um,
gotcha,
and the budget has increased, as my agency has grown. I have to spend more to keep growing,
Mhm.
because attrition, you're going to lose some policies. So I have to keep writing more policies every year to grow. And that's kind of like a must for me to keep growing the agency. And but yeah, spending money on marketing, I think that is a
Yeah.
challenge for a lot of agency owners, um, because of but that's something that, like you said, is
Mm.
scalable, because
Sure.
whether it's leads or social media, if you have something that works, you are able to say, okay, well, let me just double the spend so I could get double the leads. A lot of different
Yeah.
marketing tactics, you can't do that because they require time or personal connections, and there's just so much you could do. You could only be at one networking event at a time. And due to COVID too, I think the world's going more towards that direction. It already was, but people just, I think, do you mostly do personal lines, Chris, or?
We originally were focused more on personal lines.
Mhm.
Running some reports recently, we're now more heavily on the commercial side because of some
Oh, nice.
some of the bigger accounts that have come in have been commercial lines. So it's skewed us. Now we're like 65% commercial lines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
which is fine. I mean,
Mhm. That's
I like
exciting.
listening to business owners too, so it's
Yeah.
it's cool for me. But yeah, so it's also I don't think as scalable with like leads for per se, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, yeah. So would you say like Dan, you would narrow it down to like leads? Was that the thing that kind of got you going to take off, or
Mhm.
is that what you would say the most? Or
In the beginning, yeah, but now today I would say it's more social media.
okay,
Mhm.
so yeah, I guess what I wanted to know too when you so since that is the leads, that's kind of what got you rolling and it's scalable. I know it takes a certain amount of analysis and understanding of numbers and ROI and whatnot to scale. You can't
Mhm.
just be like, oh, 1 out of 10 is closing like off the top of your head. You should have some data. How did you do that yourself? Like, were you seeing like, okay, for every dollar I'm spending and we're making two? How did you get that like analysis? Were you actually in the trenches, like running that data, or how did you do it?
I wish I had a fancy answer for that, but I think it was more just intuition.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it wasn't that data driven. I was just like, it was almost like blindly spending money on it,
Yeah.
and just trusting that my customer service is good enough where certain people will renew. Uh, I
Yeah.
think I think I'm almost glad I did that, because I think if I ran the numbers a little bit, I think that would have made me a little less aggressive. Because when you sell a policy, you never know, if they're going to refer you somebody, if they're going to,
Right.
buy a home later, or,
Exactly.
you could always count on premium increasing, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I think you're 100% right because yeah, if you see the numbers too much, it can actually mess you up for sure. So
Yeah.
I
People
agree. That's probably the right thing.
people think I'm really analytical and data driven, and I should be more, and I think it helps, but it was just it was really just knowing that, hey, like, it's for the long term, and even if it was costing me money, I'm still okay with it, making more money. It'd be great
Right.
if I made the money back in year two and profitable year three. I still don't even know, but now that I've done
Yeah.
it for 13 years, I just don't even have to think about it or worry about it. I
Yeah.
just it's almost like, when you buy a book of business, you have to put money in and then you get the renewals later, right? So it's like almost
Yeah.
like buying a policy by buying the lead and then paying the commission. um, so I think that's an important uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
way to look at things as business owners, because
Sure.
making that switch from like, hey, I'm selling insurance, I'm a sales agent, to a a agency owner. I think that's
Yeah.
really the switch, is when you're making investment decisions rather than like, you know sales decisions. Like, instead of looking for the next hire and next sell, you're looking for the next hire and things like that. So um I would say, and then, I will still audit some of these companies, like this company is doing better than this company. So I'll run some numbers. So it's not completely just like, so data is important, but I do
Yeah.
feel like, when it comes to leads, um, I could tell you guys from experience, like if you have a good enough closing ratio, if you have good enough retention, that the only question is like, when would you start making your money back? How fast is it? But if you're
Right.
patient enough, eventually you will, if you have, a bigger book.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm really glad you said that because I think I talk about data a lot, and I talk about how like important it is to for decision making and stuff. And I've also done a lot of stuff just based on intuition and just gut feelings and hiring, like forecasting, and just like I look at the numbers, but I'm just like also like, dude, you never know what can happen. You know, like
Yeah.
we could do better than that. You know, so um, you got to go with your gut. I think, especially when you're running an agency, you can't just always be, you know, blind to the data. But Dan, I wanted to ask you for the social media aspect, like how do you guys do that? Is it just um are you guys really just running like ads, Facebook ads, Google ads, or like are you just putting out organic content? Because I personally, I don't really run. I tried running some Facebook ads. I had a guy who was doing it for me. We were burning up dollars like crazy. So I was like, oh, maybe we should pull this back a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, but I know you guys. I even get some of your ads sometimes on
Oh
like
yeah. Okay.
Instagram. Yeah, I don't click them because I don't want to waste your money, man. So I don't click them.
Oh, don't
But
worry. Yeah, it's not off clicks. It's off impression.
oh, is that right? Okay,
Hmm.
well, I'm taking your money. I'm wasting your money, man.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
basically that. You want to know who your target market is,
yeah,
right? The great thing about social media and these companies is that they know everything about everybody. So if you
yeah.
wanted to
It's
target,
getting
a certain
crazier and
demographic,
crazier.
certain language, business owners, people who live in certain radius of you, you could
Yeah.
just tell them like, hey, these are the type of people I want to show my content to. So
Mhm,
you could be really narrow and niche, which I love about it. And then you just make content that is for that audience,
mhm.
that speaks to the audience. So it's like, so if,
Contextual.
if you're contextual to yeah, to the audience, exactly. So um, I just make content, a lot of different content. And the organic one, I do both,
Yeah.
um, but that leads to like, landing pages, forms,
Mhm.
they could call directly too. So it's just been a great way for us to be able to target who we want to talk to. And I think
Yeah.
there's just where the attention is, everybody's on their phones all the time.
Right.
And it's just great to be in front of the right type of people that you want to be in front of. So
Mhm.
I really recommend it, Chris, especially if you're like a business, you can target business owners, you know,
Yeah.
50 miles radius, um, doing
Like
things
if I
like that.
like
Yeah.
if I wanted to do like plumbers or something, or like I want to do contractors or something along those lines. I've tested it a little bit. I haven't gone that narrow where I'm like, okay, I'm only gonna hit up plumbers or something like that. And I'm gonna make a little video like, hey, like, are you a plumber? Like, do you come up with the ideas, Dan, or who's like the ones that are like the masterminds behind the content?
I do. That's kind of like I consider that one of my most important job, because it's
Nice.
it's marketing. So like we talked about before, like one of my responsibilities is to make sure my employees have the opportunity. So to be
Yeah.
able to do that, I have to spend the money, but now also come up with these advertising campaigns. And I spend a lot of my time doing that, especially when it's like on a Sunday morning when it's really quiet and you don't have employees or like people like trying
Noise.
to yeah ask you questions or things come up. The kids aren't even woke they haven't even woke up yet when it's really like quiet. That's really when
Yeah.
I go into like, hey, how can I what type of copy, what should I say,
Mhm.
who should say this. So I go into that type of like content creation mode, and I plan things out. I have a videographer that
Mhm.
I work with, takes great photos too. um, but those are the type of things that I feel like that is like the agency owner's responsibility,
Yeah.
because the staff members, they could sell, they could do customer service, but they're not going to be able to spend the money for marketing or come up with these marketing ideas, or like they're not going to go to like do the research and go to YouTube and learn all these like how to things. You can't expect that from them. So I feel
Yeah.
like, hey, my job is to provide the leads to them. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking of ways to how can I efficiently use my marketing dollars, I optimize it, and to do that, I think content is really the variable.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think that's great information for me too, just because that's like a little more selfish for me because I should really kind of keep that rolling and like I tested it like I said it was expensive. I definitely burned up some money and didn't necessarily get the leads.
Hmm.
Did you hired somebody, or did you get learn how to use the Facebook Ads Manager, or did you are you actually in there like doing them? Because those are pretty.
Mhm.
It's a little tricky, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty complex, but
Yeah,
it's I didn't hire anybody. Yeah, there's a lot of information for free on YouTube.
yeah.
Spent a lot of
Just
time
gotta
there.
just gotta put in the work. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, and it's sometimes when because in the beginning, obviously, I wasn't converting anything too, but the money you spend and not converting, I feel like that's like your tuition to learn.
Yeah,
Because no
yeah,
one's gonna be able to buy even a lead or any marketing campaign, direct mail, anything like that. You're just not gonna be very good the very first attempt. you
right.
know.
Yeah,
Um, so I think it's just reps and practice, and it's like a new sport. But I think it is something that is
yeah,
definitely worth. I mean, talking about ROI, the hours I spent learning that, it,
yeah,
and the money I spent on that is so invaluable now because it's just the way the world's moving,
right.
and having a presence and being relevant on social media, I think is just critical for especially for young agency owners who have a long future to learn. I think hiring somebody is something that and people have hired me to do theirs, which is great. But I
Oh
think
wow.
I think it's also worth it, and
Putting in,
your technical abilities too,
yeah,
and the ability to how comfortable you are on that. It really depends on each person, but there's no doubt, Chris. You'll be able to, as long again, it's like depending on your schedule and how much time you
sure.
have and what your ambition is and how much sacrifice you want to make. But
Yeah,
nowadays, those type of things could be done on the weekends, and
yeah, yeah.
the
You're
willingness
right.
to lose a little bit of money, I think that goes with it too, because
Yeah,
it is not easy, I'll tell you that, but I think it's kind of fun. You get a little bit of creative side in you. With us being an insurance agency, didn't really think you're gonna be so have to use your creative side of your brain, but it's kind of fun to like think like, hey, what I'm gonna say, how I'm gonna make it look cool, what type of music I'm playing. It's just like so many things that goes into creating basically a commercial.
yeah. What do you feel like is the differentiator, like with your creativity, that other agencies that are running Facebook ads, um, like myself, that didn't work? Like, what do you feel is like your competitive edge that like makes people notice, you know, your agency versus like going with maybe someone else? Like when it comes to like a social media ads kind of creative side.
Well, I think first of all, I don't think there's a lot of people doing it, so that
Yeah,
already gives me an advantage.
right.
Uh, but I think in general, I think the creative has to be interesting or entertaining.
Yeah,
No one wants to like, no one's gonna go on social media like trying to like shop for insurance.
sure.
You basically have to like stop them in their tracks of being entertained to
Hmm.
um, stop them from feeding, scrolling.
Scrolling, yeah,
Because if it's boring, if you're like, hey, mine is blah blah blah. Like it's just like static, and you're just talking in front of a camera. People are just gonna scroll right through it. And you're like,
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
get out of here, this guy. Uh, so it has to be eye catching, colorful,
sure.
exciting. Um, so I think trying to make it entertaining, which is a very huge challenge, and
It's
even trying to
tough.
make it funny is a challenge too. But those two things, entertaining and funny,
Yeah.
I think if you provide value to the audience, I think then you have a chance.
Okay. Yeah, that's always I think that's always a good way to go, regardless of what you're putting out, whether it's ads or just even organic content. I try to like one thing I've tried to do a little bit, even with like my interviews or even content, is like try to be more. And that's why I even told you from the beginning. I was like, let's just keep it like, let's just let it flow, because when it's all just cut and dry, you want to try to bring some type of value, entertainment, make people laugh once in a while. Um, I'm not the funniest guy. You're probably funnier than I am, Dan, but
Uh,
yeah, we try to just keep it entertaining and bring value too. But yeah, that's awesome. I'll definitely keep that in mind. I think I gave up right around the point where it was like the different types of audiences that you can do, like you can do lookalike audiences, and like there's a
mhm,
different kind of audience that starts to like the algorithm starts to figure everybody out.
mhm,
That's when I was like, okay, I'm tapping out. Like I'm not understanding all this. It gets a little too complex, but Dude, you're right. Just put in the weekend hours and understand it and learn. And yeah, there's no excuses. There's no excuses. But
What is
yeah,
your kind of main marketing tactics right now?
yeah. So
Strategies?
right now we're doing. So I was gonna actually talk to. I wanted to ask you about this too. I'm glad you brought it up. Right now we're doing a lot of outbound like automation, email campaigns, kind of voicemail dropping here and there
Okay.
with leads. So that's working pretty well. We're also, I mean, the referral partnerships are really where we're like getting a lot of our leads, and those are, we're kind of also even now starting to automate and outbound drip and email campaign referral partners. So like we're going after loan officers, realtors, you know, captive agents that need help with stuff they can't write, stuff like that. So we're even now not focusing so much on just converting customers. We're now really trying to go after even referral partners so that we could have a list of loan officers that first thing they can think of when a homeowners is Adelphia or Chris. So that's kind of been working well for us. On top of that, kind of like you said, the business just starts to grow. The current clients start to get more and more and bigger, and premiums go up. So there's that. Uh, and yeah, I mean, just cross selling, networking, outbound, organic content. We're really just trying to go hard on the organic
Mm-hmm.
stuff and just staying in front of our current audience and trying to grow our own organic audience. It's tough. The organic route is not easy because you're only reaching a certain amount of people, and growing an Instagram or a Facebook or a YouTube channel or any of that kind of stuff. Um, you just gotta just put in the work, and there's no money you can throw at it. You can throw money with the content and whatnot, but even then there's no guarantee. So the organic route's not is not always the best, and that's why I think you're bringing up good points with um the advertising for sure. That should be in our wheelhouse. um the funds aren't like in the best spot to be pouring money into Facebook at the moment, but something I'm going to definitely reconsider and think about. You
Yeah,
know,
and I really like that, and I can see your activity level is really good. But almost
yeah,
look at the organic part as practice. So you
yeah,
kind of like figure out like, oh, I post this like got more engagement, like people like this, and
yeah,
the more you get comfortable with that, then you're gonna find a situation where like, oh, this did really well, people like this, and that kind of gives you like more of that.
yeah.
You start spending money on something that you like. So I think I
That's
look
a
at uh, the ads as the game and the organic as a practice to figure
yeah,
out what people like. And then I think what you said I think could help a lot of people because we do a lot of it is just automation
really okay.
stuff. Yeah.
Dripping email
Mhm.
campaign, dripping, and
Yeah.
nice. That's good stuff.
So I think more and more of that I think it's easy too once it's set up right.
Oh yeah, it's
Setting it
great.
up maybe is hard part, but once it's set up, it's great. So
Yeah,
those are the type of things I really think has helped our agency too. So I'm glad
yeah.
you brought that up.
No, it's crazy, Dan. There's some of them that come through, and I look to see at what point, like we'll set up, 11 touch points.
Mhm.
Maybe yours is even more. I don't know, but there's some that like on the 11th contact, it's like an email, and the person will respond on the 11th one. I'm
Yeah.
like, holy, that's crazy. Like if we had stopped at 10, like they might have never responded. So on the 11th touch, like they'll answer back and they'll say, hey, yeah, I need a quote. So it's kind of crazy how that works. But
Yeah, and it's just the system's doing it for you. What about the YouTube channel? Because I am
yeah,
really, have an interest in helping out other agents too, and seems like,
yeah,
man, you're getting really good, you know,
yeah,
yeah, performance there. So
yeah. No,
that's
it's
just
been
building. How'd you get started with that?
it's interesting the way that happened. It all started with, I was just getting going. I don't know if you see, if you look on my YouTube channel, there's one video that's called how to start an insurance
I
agency.
just saw it right now. Yeah, right before.
Yeah, that's the one that got like all the kind of traffic going to the agency or to the channel.
Hmm.
Uh, so that one, I was just sitting in my office like in the first year I started, and it was all fresh in my mind. Obviously, how I just did this and like set it all up foundationally. And before that, I was looking everywhere online. Dan. Like if you try to start an independent agency, there's zero information online, like how to actually set up. the the business license, the getting the entity approved by the Department of Insurance, getting your errors and omissions, doing all these things. Like there's nothing that's just like a step by step. So I was like, all right, I watched Gary Vee. I don't know if you know who Gary Vee is. He
Oh
just
yeah.
says put out value, and I was like, sure, I'll just make this one video. I made a bunch of them, and that one I just laid it out. I said I kept it really straight to the point, really short. I was literally like this close to not posting it because my collar. If you look at the video, my collar is like that. And I was like, dude, I'm not, I look funny. I sound funny. I'm not going to post it. And I decided to post it anyway. And for about 8 months, that video didn't get any views.
Uh-huh,
I think it had like 50 views. And then out of nowhere, I think it got on like, some site that kind of helped push it up a little bit.
uh-huh,
And people just started watching it. The algorithm, YouTube algorithm started to show it to more people. And now I think it just crossed over 20,000 views and it's gotten more traffic and people started hitting me up to get consulting calls on how to start. And at first I was like, yeah, I'll do it for like $20 for an hour just to talk like after hours. And then I started realizing, okay, like too many people are calling me. I probably should, bump that up because my time, it's taken
yeah.
away from the agency. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now I kind of just do some consulting calls here and there. Um, that's the only way I kind of even make money for myself.
Hey,
But yeah.
that's awesome. That's
What
a really
about you, Dan?
awesome story. I think
Are you?
I
Oh
think
yeah,
that's I think the powerful message to that, I think that people and I relate to too, is that sometimes we get really self-conscious of
yeah.
like, it's kind of like I don't know if you want to call it like self-esteem or like just like over
Self-image.
conscious of like what other people think, because
Yeah,
I guarantee you all the 20,000 views, no one noticed your collar, and I do that all the time too. And once I kind of got over that and I'm putting out more content, it
yeah,
has really made a big difference. So I
yeah.
think kind of like what I learned is I gotta just get over myself. Like I don't really matter that much to a lot of people. Like no one cares, what I'm wearing or
Right.
how I look and what you say. I mean, you want to deliver value, but I
Sure.
think that's a great lesson for others to just put out content and see what happens.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at like, thinking about the end user's experience and if you're providing value to them, that comes back, and I've seen that.
100%. Yeah.
For my channel with less views as yours is. So I already experienced that myself. So and it helps to feels good to help others too. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll be honest, Dan, like that's what I'm doing now. I
Mhm,
have a feeling like it's gonna do something that's gonna be beneficial for, right now I'm just giving for free, giving away all my best advice. And I think you are too. And I was gonna ask you, what is your like long-term vision of it? Like, are you just trying to build it up and see what happens? Or because I honestly I'm just going with my gut and saying like I think this will be good for a lot of people and like it could be
mhm,
good for me in the future. I don't know how. I just creating content like and plus, meaningful conversations like this are extremely valuable for
mhm.
myself and
Yeah.
on a lot of other people, but I don't know how it's gonna come back. I feel like it'll come back somehow. Do you have a vision at all, like what's gonna like
Yeah,
happen?
that's really funny you say that, Chris, because when I started making videos, well, basically I was just documenting myself, so I wasn't really it didn't take that much time. But
Yeah.
and I interview other people too, and I've get so much value out of that. So first of all, I think, and then when I help other people and do consultation, so that is one thing, consultation. I'll get
Yeah.
consultation calls like you said, so that's been fun. But when I do them, even though yeah, that's getting me back with some monetary compensation, but I'm also learning a lot about you know my techniques. Like when I understand it, but when I'm teaching it to somebody, it's a deeper
Mhm.
level. Or sometimes I'll give advice to somebody like, hey, I should be doing that more too. So it helps
Yeah.
my operation. But you just never know where it leads to. I
Right.
By putting out content for other agency owners, I have like I said, consultation. I have also set up some Facebook accounts for some. You know,
Mhm.
I've also sold leads to some. So and these are
Nice.
things that I never really like expected would happen at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
it's
crazy.
really interesting. You don't even have to have a game plan. You just put out content and see where it takes you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dude. That's the way to go. I agree. Like I said, I'm just going with my gut, and I think yeah, we're on the same page with that. But yeah, Dan, I want to also be respectful of your time. Do you want to have? I wanted to ask you one last thing. If you have like any last like little piece of advice for an agent or anybody starting out from scratch that you would say worked for you, and like this is it. I know you've already given a ton of value, but like, is there one little like piece of advice you would say to somebody?
Yeah, man, it's just hard to narrow just down to one, right? But I
Yeah,
would say, you know, take care of your staff. I would say,
yeah,
really kind of look out for their best interests because once you take care of them, then they give back in return to you. I
totally.
think sometimes people have expectations of their staff when you hire somebody kind of an ego and it's like, hey, you work for me, and then like, what are you gonna do for
Right.
me? I think when you turn that around and say, hey, I work for you, let me help you, and then that's when the commitment kind of returns. So
Totally.
just it's a communication, it's a relationship business with our customers. So I think
Yeah.
one of the things to be able to scale and depending on your ambition is to, hire the right people and taking care of them. I think in the long run, that's really kind of like where my mind is right now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Dan. I appreciate it, man. It's been great talking to you. Honestly, I feel like we could keep talking forever. So,
Right?
dude, we should get together maybe one day once all COVID situations back to normal and grab a beer or something and talk. But yeah, Dan, I
Yeah.
really appreciate your time, man, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, Chris, I'm glad to get to know you a little better. I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to keep in touch with you because I know you're up to big things. So
thank you.
yeah, we'll
I
keep in
appreciate it.
touch and yeah, definitely. I don't drink, but
Oh, gotcha.
that'd be cool to have some more discussions with you. I
Yeah.
actually grew up in Palos Verdes, so you're in Torrance,
Oh,
right?
no way.
Yeah, yeah. So
Dang, that's crazy.
yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, dude,
Well,
I went to Peninsula. Did you go to high school there, or where did you
oh
go to high
yeah.
school?
Oh, you went to Peninsula?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow, I had no idea.
And then now
Dang.
you live in Torrance, or just that's where your agency is?
I live in Torrance. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
yeah, I'm just yeah, currently living here and then maybe one day buy a house in Palos Verdes, like a nice one. We'll see.
Yeah, right on the
Hopefully,
cliff. Let's do
maybe,
it.
maybe. But yeah, Dan, I appreciate it. Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, we gotta get
Yeah,
together
yeah, for sure.
for sure. All right, Dan.
All right,
Have
Chris.
a great rest of your
Nice
day,
talking to
man.
you,
I
man.
appreciate
All
it.
right, you too.
Thank
I'll
you,
see ya.
man. We'll talk to you soon.